And then let's see. Yeah, we'll just do like a little introduction. We always start with like a quote. And then at the end we'll do like well, not at the end, but midway. We'll stop like 45 minutes to an hour in and we'll do like a raffle and then open it up to like Q&A stuff. Is that
Okay, cool.
is that sympathetic? And
Sounds good.
this was the quote that I thought that would maybe be apropos to your dance.
I love that you use that phrase now.
Yeah. And there's a lot of farmers who can't figure out how to grow food, and a lot of times I'm like, but you're the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought this was so good to just your philosophy, your, at least, all the experience you, because you're still growing on your acreage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm slowly getting it going. I say I'm all like, yeah, because I actually had to close things down a little bit this year. Just kind of did everything by myself, but I already got infrastructure built out, so
Awesome.
that worked.
Matthew built a watering system for our backyard yesterday, actually, before we left.
Cool.
Had to make sure that the tomatoes survived.
All the drip irrigation, because it's Arizona, you don't want to waste water,
Yeah, you gotta use drip where you're at.
Yeah,
for sure. Maybe. Yeah, because I think it's a little too dark. Thank you.
Let me make sure I'm recording here too. There we go.
What is it right here then? Is there another one right there? Ah, very shiny. Maybe a little too shiny. Yeah, oh, there you go. You're good. Yeah. And then Charles, we'll just give it a couple minutes and then we'll get started. And we'll do a little intro of just like us, why we chose this quote, and then we'll kind of move the floor over to you and start that dance.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see what you've created today.
There's so many awesome things, that a lot of us have around that we don't think about. So it's kind of tough, but it'll be good.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and then I'm going to do those two products that you mentioned. I mean,
yeah, if you wanted to do more or whatever, I just didn't want it. I didn't want to push product, but I mean, we can give away.
I mean, but I want to, we love your stuff. We always tell them about it. This is, I don't want to push it, but I definitely want to raffle, some of your stuff off just even as a thank you.
A lot of people we work with love your salt.
That's what I was thinking. We could give some salt away at least, because I figured, and I could even talk about something you could do with the salt, even if you don't have my salt. It's like super kind of, I don't even have it written here on my notes either. But we could do that if we wanted to, you know what I mean? So like, and the idea was just like making that brine, but it sounds like you guys already know, like a lot of people might know about that. But
well, yeah, we talk about the brine all the time. We've got like, when I saw that one, I was like, that's what inspired me to reach out. And I was like, oh my God, Charles, I want you to come on and just talk about these little different like ways of doing things, because this is great.
And Matthew made a batch of the brine and put it in our mineral blend and didn't tell me. And I went to take a swig of it and it was just pure salt.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
it was strong. I liked it.
Have y'all done the teaspoon of salt in the morning, like first thing in the morning? Have y'all tried that?
Teaspoon of salt, of your salt?
Just salt. I mean, yeah, but it's like the idea is like when you first wake up to just do about either half to 1 teaspoon of salt. And the idea is it like really just wakes up all those neuroconnective sites in the body and the brain, and like really gets the electricity firing in the body. It's a great pre-workout too. So if you're gonna go work out or run or whatever, it really gets those synapses firing and just get your body kind of like charged up, so to speak. you know, like the experiment in college where maybe sometimes people had this experiment in high school, but where they took the salt in the water with the light bulb. Yeah, remember that in biology, maybe?
Yeah. No, I remember. I just no, I've never done that. No, I did the brine, and I did the brine in the gallon of water, and doing that dance, and then I was experimenting with it, and I was like, ooh, maybe I should put in that, and then I started experimenting with it even more, and I did the salt brine, and then I did a Ace Mannin brine. So I took the same concept, put in Ace Mannin, let that dilute, and then I combined them. And
Nice.
it's like, ooh, because if the salt polarizes the water, like you're saying, and it really kind of wakes everything up electromagnetically, I started doing research, and I was like, ooh, would this enhance the Ace Mannin in water if you added the brine salt afterwards? And so when I was doing research, everything pointed to like it would actually enhance the Ace Mannin uptake in the body. And so that's why I just started messing around when I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I love this. So
Cool,
yeah,
man.
I mean, no, but I didn't even think about doing a teaspoon of the salt first thing in the morning, especially like pre-workout. And
It's
that's
kind of like trending right now. There's a few guys that influencers that were like really pushing it, but it's an old folklore, kind of remedy,
no, that's great because we have somebody.
Pretty-
We have a guy that gets on, and I think I saw him on briefly at the very beginning. But he'll probably get on later. His name is Adam, and he does a lot of workout stuff and loves that kind of thing. So I think he would love that. So yeah, any kind of like little spurts of that little magical fairy dust that that you do, man, spit it out, man. That's great. Our people will definitely soak it up, and I know I will.
That's cool, man. Yeah, God bless. We'll see where it goes and
And then we actually already had some. Let's see. We do have guests who don't know about the salt. So for those of you that don't know what the salt is, I mean, obviously we'll get into the awesomeness of Charles Barber, but for right now, it's Salt. I believe it's called Salt.
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's Salt, and it's Icelandic sea salt. He also has a polar one that he just came out with recently.
Yeah.
I have not tried that one yet, but I hear great things, and some other of our patients have tried it, and they love it. Yeah, the salt is just like, I don't know. The Icelandic sea salt is just kind of out of this world. It's way more potent than Himalayan, in my opinion.
And it's got a much higher concentration of magnesium and potassium as well. So you're actually getting more mineralization from the salt itself.
And actually, the other thing that we also found out recently, watching some of Bernard Jensen's stuff. And for those of you that don't know Bernard Jensen, he is the father of iridology. But we just connected with his daughter recently, and she gave us like a bunch of his old videos, like from back in the 80s that he.
Oh, cool.
Oh man, it's just like, you want to talk about some home remedy stuff, but but one of the things he was saying was, if you want to alkalinize the body, uptake potassium. So, that is a great way of doing that. So the Icelandic sea salt, even Celtic salt, I would actually rate Celtic salt below Himalayan, in my opinion. So I would say it goes probably Celtic, Himalayan, then Icelandic. And then from what I've seen, again, I just what I've just dabbled in, I would say the polar salt is probably even either just as high or higher than the Icelandic.
Yeah, it's a little bit lower. We can go into the details.
Oh, it's a little bit lower. Okay.
I know Barbara O'Neill's all over the internet with the Celtic, but she's Irish or no, she's Australian actually, I think. So I think she's from that area or whatever. But it's a great salt. It's a different type of salt. That's why it's gray. It comes more out of a clay bed. The metals are kind of controversial on it. A lot of people are testing it and they're seeing there's lots of lead in it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to when we're talking about salt. Nutrient density is obviously a concern, but the main issue is the microplastics and the heavy metals. So the first thing we have to look at is like, what ocean is it coming from, right? And like, where is that origin of originality from? Because that's going to determine a lot. There's a couple influencers out there that talk about a salt brand. I don't want to like bash a salt brand, but it's basically like the company claims no contaminants in the salt. And one thing we have to realize, there's nothing in the world that we eat that doesn't have zero contaminants in it.
Yeah.
Like it's just the way even if you're an Amish farmer up in Pennsylvania, only eating off the land, our environment is so polluted that even the meat that they're eating there in that highest of high standards, biodynamic, whatever you want to call it, there's still, pollutants and metals that get in that food. Because I've tested some of the Amish food and it's low, but it's there. So this company claims no contaminants, and that really kind of like, I just hate that because it's so misleading. And then influencers get on a 30-second Instagram reel and say there's no contaminants in it and say that it's got these trace minerals. But then when you find out, like, well, where's the salt come from? It comes from and then this particular salt comes from the most polluted ocean in the world. So it's like, why aren't they showing heavy metal testing? Why aren't they showing these things? They're claiming no contaminants, but they're not really backing it up. And so we have to realize that, all salt's going to have contaminants in it. I know the Celtic was pretty high on the lead. The Icelandic, it comes from up north. That's one of the purest, coldest oceans that exist. And so that's why it's the purest. It just happened to be the most nutrient dense as well, with the super high magnesium. It's got 4 times the amount of magnesium as Celtic. So it's got more density to it. And like for me, I could have brought on any salt in the world. And that was the idea. Is like, I just wanted to bring on salt. We've had M salt for almost 10 years. But people haven't gotten into salt until the last, 2 years, year and a half. It's like trending for everyone to get back on salt.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how things happen, especially when you've been in the game a long time. But my point that I was trying to make is like, I could have brought on anything and I was willing to bring on whatever. I just wanted to make sure what I was testing after test after test, C of A after C of A, that it met the highest standards, the crucial 4 standards, because I eat the products every single day, so my concern is for myself and for my family first, and I mean, that's the kind of the opposite of how companies like mine get built, right? They mainly get built on trends. They get built on what the market holds. They get built on, what people buy. I never really cared about any of that. I cared about myself first, because like I say, when you're in the airplane and, they're giving you the whole spiel before you take off, when the oxygen mask comes down, they're not like, hey, put that on your kit first. Like, no, put it on you and then go help someone else. And I just really live by that philosophy. We have to take care of ourselves before we can help other people.
And that's another reason why, we bring people like you on, is because, that's that service first, and that, uniqueness comes up so well. And, a lot of our patients rely on us to do the research. And then we also sort of rely on people like you, and trust people like you to say, hey, we love anything about this company. It doesn't matter what product he brings on, because he's doing his homework, he's doing his due diligence, he's taking that responsibility of what's coming up on the market for himself, not so that he can make a profit, not so that he can make revenue, not so that he can be in trend. It's so that, that you can say, hey, look, this is a great product and I vetted it. And I know that there's a lot of doctors that you work with that, rely on that trustworthy, that integrity of, hey, I'm doing my homework to make sure that anything I'm bringing to you guys is as good as quality as can be. Like I tell the story so many times about the chocolate that you used to sell, right? And then you took it down. And if I remember correctly, right, you took it down because it started testing too high on heavy metals.
Yeah, the chocolate bar.
And you couldn't get the quality that you used to get.
Yeah, no, that's not necessarily what happened. What happened? Okay. Well, what ended up happening was we would ship it and it would melt, and so I didn't want to deal with the logistics of it. The chocolate's fire. Yeah, I can show you the heavy metal test for it now. We still sell it in the breakfast, but that chocolate bar was a paste. But yeah, man, it was such a fulfillment nightmare for us because we do everything. We manufacture everything. We fulfill everything. So we got like an 8,000 square foot building, which isn't huge, but it's good size. And yeah, dude, it's like Texas, right? And where you guys are at, it gets so hot. So people would complain, it'd melt. We try to do the ice packs, we try to wrap it up. Then we'd have people have to pay like first class shipping. People complain about that. So it just wasn't worth it, in the end. It's like, we'll offer the nibs and the powder because those are more shelf stable, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. But But I was gonna say, you know, you mentioned like doctors and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, just like your daddy, right? That's how we met.
Yeah.
He was a mentor to me, and wow, what an honor for you to have such an amazing human as your father. And I mean, he is just like, I get teary eyed when I think about your dad, bro. He's such an amazing man. So I just want to like, I wanted to say that, you know what I mean? Because he's been a huge influence in my life, and he's always believed in us. And you know, when Dr. Michael's coming around, he's got this sixth sense, and he knows BS. You know, he doesn't have to do anything. He just needs to feel your energy, because then that's how he is, right? He gets in your face, he gets in your space,
Yeah.
and he feels you, you know, and he makes sure he knows who he's with in that moment. And man, like his eyes, man, they're like amazing human. So, anyways, I digress, but
No, this is great. All right, well, let's get started. We've chit-chatted long enough and had some fun on pre-gaming. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. We usually start with a quote, and this was the quote that kind of actually stuck out to me, only because of, you know, what I know about Charles, which you'll learn in a little bit. But also, if you haven't read this book, it's called One Straw Revolution.
yeah,
His book is incredible, and it's not, even if you're not a farmer, even if you don't grow any food, it's a great book to read, because it's the philosophy of not doing.
right.
That's literally this guy's philosophy. They would bring in all these scientists to figure out how he grew what he grew, and he would just say, no, I just, I just fling the seeds everywhere. He just randomly, he goes, because that's what nature is. And he goes, you're trying to figure out what I do, and it's all, random, and it's all chaos, but it's really about the art of not doing is
Right.
his philosophy is, and maximizing that not doing, and really observing things. And for those of you that this is your first week, that's what we talk about a lot. We talk about observing and getting to know yourself and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And there's a lot of things that work there. There's a lot of ways to get to the end of the rainbow. You need to find, what your colors look like at the end of that rainbow. And so this is a great book. It's a short read. I mean, it really is. But it's a great book. And this guy kind of rocked the world of farming in so many unique, simple ways.
Yeah.
But the quote is, for those of you that, can't see the screen, the ultimate goal of farming is not the growing of crops, but the cultivation and perfection of human beings. And it's so funny, when he had the scientists on his land trying to figure out what he was doing, this is one of the things that he would share with them, and try to get them to see and understand that it's, I'm not trying to grow crops, I'm cultivating myself, and that's why these things are growing. And so it was just really interesting and really powerful. And obviously this was, around the time of also Emoto's work on that, on that world of water. And obviously he did a lot of stuff where he would put plants in a jar, Emoto, for Dr. Emoto, and he would say messages to these jars of plants, and one would grow and one wouldn't. And the one that wouldn't, he would say negative things to. And so this was all around this time of One Star Revolution, Dr. Emoto's work. And
they've tested that theory with music. They've tested it with grounding wires that run from the soil into a potted plant that's indoors. I mean, that connection between nature and growth is really paramount.
For yourself and, for what you eat. And, they even talk about it within food, that, there's a lot of life in food that we're eating. And you want to know where it comes from, like Charles was talking about before, and you want to know how it's being processed and who's handling it. And I mean, all those things matter. They really do. And they're mattering more and more these days.
We can only see a tiny spectrum of the light spectrum, right? We basically can see RBG, right? Or whatever, red, the colors of the rainbow, the 7 colors of the rainbow. That's it. And when you start to study like the actual spectrum of light that exists, like, wow, like we can only see this much, But luckily we have a heart and we can feel the rest, right?
So. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I'm Dr. Matthew.
I'm Dr. Michelle.
And we're Dr. Me and You, for those of you, again, that are on for the first time. And really, you know, our biggest thing is we're here to teach and educate.
Yeah. We're a husband and wife team, and we love educating. We love learning. We like experimenting with different natural remedies and things, and we don't ask anybody to do anything we haven't tried out ourselves, really. We use ourselves as guinea pigs all the time.
All the time.
So most of the stuff that we recommend for patients is probably sitting on our kitchen counter somewhere in our house. So yeah, we really believe that you know your body better than anybody else. You live in your body 24/7. You understand it. And so if we can educate you on how to tune into that and how to understand what your body is communicating, then you can help yourself heal and get better. And that's what the body's meant to and designed to do.
Yeah. All right. So tonight we have the illustrious, wonderful Charles Barber. He is the CEO and founder of Crucial 4. If you haven't checked it out, I'm not just trying to push it. This is a great place on education, on products, on ways of taking care of yourself on all levels.
And they've got some of the more unique products that we like to use.
You know, and he's a plant geneticist. If I'm hopefully that's I mean, that's what you know. But
we can go into all that stuff.
He's a plant whisperer. He's a nutritional whisperer. I mean, the guy is
a wizard.
Very much of a wizard. The guy is very talented, and you know, tonight he's going to show you some great simple ways to kind of concoct your own remedies, I'm going to say, you know, in your own home with simple ways, simple solutions for yourself. And it should be a lot of fun. It's, you know, he's bringing alchemy into the home in such a unique way. So I hope you enjoy. And Charles, do you need me to have you share the screen, or do you need me to do anything like that?
No, we're good. So I did write a blog about everything I'm going to talk about. I don't know how much we're going to be able to go through, so I definitely want to be able to share that to you guys. So it's actually like the recipes will be like kind of like written down step by step. Also, we're recording this. I'll probably upload this to YouTube as well, which then will link to that blog so that if anyone wants a reference for how to actually make this stuff, they'll have that for them. But yeah, that's how we're going to rock this guy here. So
awesome. All right. Well, the floor is yours.
Okay, so the first thing that I'd like to talk about is like a natural remedy is something we put on our skin, right? Now, I might be a little for me, this is like a really important thing for my life, like what I put on my skin, because I'm in Texas and we're on limestone and the water's super hard. So like I get dried out big time. But basically a lotion or some type of what we call like a moisturizer for your skin. And a lot of people have coconut oil laying around in their house. And I'm hoping that more people are actually getting tallow. So I wanted to share basically just like a home lotion you can make at home. Because for me, most of the stuff on the market's got something weird in it that I just don't like. And there's a few girls that I do like that, you know, we trade products back and forth. But the amount that I use, like it would be so expensive to buy their products. So it's something I still DIY at home. And so I want to share with you guys that. And basically all you do is you take tallow and coconut oil. And if you guys aren't familiar with tallow, this is a very stable fat. This is a very powerful fat it's a saturated fat like coconut oil. I'm big on staying away from the polyunsaturated fat. So do you mind if I go into like why I would choose these oils over? Because I know that gets brought up because, you know, my wife's Asian. And so she brings all types of crap in the house, like that I'm looking on the back and I'm like, no, you know, it might have like one or two ingredients, but they really, in Asia, like the skincare game is on a whole nother level. I'm sure you guys maybe know this or not, maybe you do or not, but
yes.
Actually, I was asked at one point, I was asked to head up skincare for Mary Kay over in Asia. And the amount of research that's required to even run that department is incredible.
Yeah,
there's so much, and it's so different. Like here, we go into a grocery store and we see all these tanning products. Over there, you go over there and everything is skin whitening and brightening product.
Right. Yeah,
Totally
it's a totally different animal. And they put like ginseng, and they're big on fermented rice, water, and cordyceps. I've seen cordyceps, I've seen deer antler. I've seen everything in the Chinese skincare stuff. And I think that's really cool. The problem is almost all of these oils have polyunsaturated fats of some sort. So they have some type of seed oil inside of them. And I know coconut is a nut as well, right? It's coconut, right? But it's a different fat. And that's one thing I really wanted to kind of impress upon people, is to let them know, like, hey, most of these fats that we're putting on our skin are rancid. So most of these oils are either coming from, almond, even the jojoba. These things get rancid because light and heat can destroy a polyunsaturated fat. It's a very fragile fat. And even though the quality might be organic and it might be sourced the best ever, and they might have good marketing, and they might have a good, presentation, because most skin products do, they look really sexy. The packaging's always like really nice. I've found, like, for me and my skin, they just don't really agree. I notice things, like breaking out. Even my wife, she's always buying this fancy stuff, and she's like, oh, this one broke me out, I can't use this one. So what I like to do is I like to take a mix of coconut oil and tallow, and that right there will have kind of a off smell. I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, it's not gonna smell like roses, like lotion. And I'm sure most of you women are thinking like, oh, tallow, beef tallow, rendered beef fat on my body? Are you kidding me? I'm gonna smell like a French fry, right? The key is to mix it with coconut oil. And if you really want to lower that kind of that smell, or that that smell, or that aroma, the more coconut oil you add in this mixture, the more you'll offset that. So I just want to kind of bring that up.
You can't overdo the coconut oil.
I mean, look, find what works for you. I do 50-50 because I found a way to make it to where it smells amazing. And that's what I'm going to share next, because this is the big problem. Along with the fact that most of these moisturizers have crappy oils, which is actually, that's the number one problem. The second problem these products have is they use fragrance, or they use essential oils. So someone might be saying, oh, I don't use fragrance, mine has essential oils. Well, we're finding out we don't really want to put essential oils on our skin. Like, it's aromatherapy. You know what I mean? Like, we don't, and I know that there's companies out there like, well, they say that you can drink it and consume it. I don't know if I agree with some of that stuff. Maybe some of those oils are safe, but I would say most of them aren't. So here's what I do. I like to take tree resins. You might be thinking, what? Tree resins. Yes, I like taking tree resins. My favorite is copal, but you could use something like a pine. You could use frankincense. You could use myrrh. There's all different types of tree resins that exist. And when you take these resins and you put them in a double boiler with your concoction of coconut oil and tallow, they'll dissolve into a liquid. And after you've done this, again, in a slow boiler, in a double boiler, excuse me. And if you guys don't know what a double boiler is, it's basically like you take a saucepan, you fill it up with water, then you take a glass bowl, you set that on top of it, and you pour your oil in that glass bowl. And the steam and the heat from the water that's in the saucepan will slowly start to create more of an even distribution of heat on that glass bowl on the bottom of it. And that will slowly melt down the tallow, slowly melt down the coconut oil, and eventually will melt down your resin.
Charles, what is your, how did you learn about all this stuff, making into a mad chemist? How did you?
Well, I needed something. I had a problem. Everything on the market sucked. So with anyone who's innovative in life, like, there's problems we have, we create solutions for them. Yeah. And the other caveat is, like I mentioned, my water is very hard here, and I have a softener and everything, but my water is still so hard, I get out. So I use a lot. I use a lot of oil. And I think we should really pay attention to how much moisturizer we are putting on our skin, because our skin is exposed to the environment more than any other organ. It's also the largest organ that we have. And at the end of the day, we all want to look good, right? We all want to have that nice glowing skin. We don't want our skin to age. And it turns out most of these lotions and these creams, they're actually aging us. Because if you put a rancid oil on your face, right? An hydrogenated oil on your face, imagine how that's going to age your skin. It's going to create oxidation on your skin. It's just going to oxidize your skin, right? So the last thing we want to do is put something on our skin that's going to affect the way our skin looks. Now, I'm a big believer that the skin is an actual gateway for the internal like the internal charge of the blood, like how oxygenated the blood is, how healthy they are. So you can't just eat crap and then put this stuff on your skin. And if you have the best skin as well, like it's a two-part fold, right? Like if you want to have healthy skin, you got to eat well. You know what I mean? So I don't want to go like, I don't want to act like, this is like the miracle cream, or whatever. Like, because we do have to understand that like the reason why some people have like a good charge or a good redness to their suppleness to their skin is because their blood is charged. But the last thing, again, we want to be doing is putting oxidative stress on our skin, especially on our face, right? That's like the last place we want to put stuff. So yeah, so basically back to the recipe. And again, it's just resins from trees, guys. So you choose what you want. I would stay away from essential oils, use a double boiler. I'm gonna, in the blog, I'll have like actual breakdown of the recipe, like how much to actually use. I use a lot of resins. And again, my favorite to use is copal. That's one of my favorite resins to use. I love the way it smells. It's basically like a sage or a palo santo. So it's a very powerful herb. It's an herb that helps with, blocking negative energies, like keeping everything kind of fresh and clean. So imagine like lathering your whole body on that, and then you're just walking around life, emanating this energy, right? Has a very high charge. It's got a whole lot of prana in it. And since you're just slowly melting this down into the oil, you're not denaturing anything. You're keeping all the essence of those resins. And they've even shown that pine resin is extremely anti-cancer. They've shown that like if you can go walk into a pine forest, that a lot of people are like having remission in cancer as part of their regime of getting out and walking in the forest. And science is showing us that it's actually these oils that are coming out of these resins. Specifically in this scientific study I saw, it was pine resin. And I just thought that was fascinating, that, here we are in a situation where everyone's pumping out these oils and these creams on us, and a lot of them are causing, the C word, right? They're causing that, but there's an inverse. There's a solution out there that does the opposite. It actually helps, create apoptosis in cancer cells.
So have you ever done the resin, the double boiling, and then like put your head over to just breathe all of it in while it's kind of coming up, or no?
I mean, when you do this, the whole house gets lit. Right?
Awesome.
And I'm big on taking like natural charcoal and burning those resins around the house too. But yes, Michael, I like getting in there, just smelling it all up. It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, for me, one thing I do want to mention though is after I've melted all that down, with coconut oil and tallow being a saturated fat, we all know at room temperature, get rock solid, right? So one thing you really want to do, or that I found that I like to do, is whip it. And so the way you whip it is you basically get like a little handheld blender, and you just, after everything's melted down, you just start kind of mixing it up a lot. And so what that does is that brings oxygen in the mix. There's some alchemy there, right, for you. It brings oxygen in the mix there, and then it really helps create more of like a creamy texture, a whipped texture. And now, even in the cold, when it gets cold, it won't get rock solid. It'll stay kind of fluffy. It'll stay more of a consistency that you're used to with the lotion. And that is the magic right there. At the very end, just whipping it up. But the fact that you're using 100% organic, ingredients, especially if you're getting a, grass-fed tallow and whatnot, and you're using these resins, man, this is a product I have yet to see on the market. That, who knows, maybe one day we'll put something out like that, because I literally buy like they're like 2.5 gallon jugs of tallow, and then we used to sell coconut oil, so I got drums of that stuff, right? So I'll like make a 16-ounce jar, like this is a 16-ounce jar here. I'll go through this in probably 3 or 4 weeks. It'll go pretty fast, but my wife's using it, my kids are using it, you know what I mean? I'm a family of 4, and I use a lot. The other thing though to note too is that a little of this goes a long way. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced coconut oil. It doesn't moisturize the skin for me that well. I like using it, but after you put it on, you kind of feel like, did anything go on my skin? You know, it kind of like doesn't stick. The tallow, I've noticed, really helps drive that in and really helps create that moisturization. It really kind of helps create like a shine and a little glow on the skin as well. So it kind of helps it stick on the skin. And for me, like I said, I have very dry skin because a lot of the groundwater here is, you know, where it's on limestone. But yeah, so someone just commented, and I know we're going to go into questions, but I typically do what that person just mentioned. I'm a half and half. I'm half coconut oil, half tallow. If you don't like the tallow, if your resins aren't really potent enough, maybe you need to add more coconut oil to your mix. But I don't, you know, just play with it. You know, that's part of this whole DIY thing, right? You just play with things, have fun with it. Like, have fun with playing with it, because that's a big part of how you discover new ideas. If you're stressed out, or if you're being psycho fanatic about something and you're like, I've got to get it exactly this way, that takes the fun out of it. You know what I mean? Like, let yourself have fun, let yourself make mistakes so that you learn, you know, so you actually get the consistency you want, you get the smell that you want. And then once you find that, like, that's yours and you created that, and that's powerful, you know, because you've worked with your hands, you're working with your mind, you're off a screen. I got like 3 of them staring at me right now, but yeah, you know, so anyways, I wanted to mention that as the number one, because I feel like that's something that everyone should look into and apply in their lives, because I know so many people, we put lotion on our skin every day, and most of us do, right? Especially when we get out of the shower. So it's something we do daily. So I wanted to bring something that, you know, you guys that you do daily, you know, the generalist principle is what I was thinking. Like, what are super general things, you know? Because I'm a wacko, I do weird things, you know, so I want to like bring it down a notch for that. So
no, it's great.
That's number one, man. Do you want to go into any details or anything like so?
No, I think that's a good, you know, summary of what to do, how to do, why to do it. And again, for those of you that are wanting more detailed, there's going to be more details on the blog. So I think, no, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's go to your second juicy.
Yeah, I'll drop a link and everything for all these, because this next one's going to be even more detailed than as a DIY, because these are home remedies. The next one is actually going to be how to make your own magnesium supplement. And so we don't want to address these questions now, right? We want to wait till
no, yeah, we'll yeah, feel free to anyone, hey, ask your questions, and once we get,
and then we'll just go through the list at the end. We'll go through them all.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I want to answer people's questions because they're valid. So this next one is how to make your own magnesium supplement. And this, to me, is one of those things that we all need to look at. You know, heart disease is the #1 killer in America. And where heart disease correlates to why you need to make your own magnesium supplement is that your heart needs more magnesium than any organ in the body. And again, heart disease is the #1 killer in the world. So I have a theory that most of us are just magnesium deficient and we have broken hearts. And this is why so many people are dying from heart disease, right? It's more of a could be more than a magnesium deficiency for sure, but this got confirmed by the dog. Like, that was powerful. Did y'all hear that? That's jaw. You know what I'm saying? Like, powerful stuff, right? Because when we start talking about the heart, man, we can get super esoteric, right? Especially with the stuff we know now about how we know that there's neurons in the heart, that the heart speaks more to the brain, that the heart is actually the main control center of communication to the brain. It's not the brain. It's not the gut. It's the heart. The heart is running the show. And that is just so powerful for me, because the potential that we have to push out this electromagnetic pulse that's 5,000 times more potent than what our brain can push out. It really brings the mysticism and the science and merges it. And it really kind of quantifies how miracles happen, like how people can spontaneously heal. You know, how there's people out there that can put their hands on someone and undo the cancer, how people can pray, the power of prayer and how it works, but literally the science of miracles. And wow, like that's, get goosebumps thinking about that, right? That the power that we are, right? We were created in the image of the I am, so here we are. But back to magnesium. So the reason why it's so important is because obviously the stuff I just mentioned, but at the end of the day, magnesium is something that there's so many different forms of, and there's so many different types you can get, and everyone sells the best one, and everyone's promoting this one and that one. And I get it. And I think it's all great, to be honest. Like, it's all great. Take the magnesium. But if we were to look in a perfect world, because that's how I always look. I love the quote. I love how you talked about observation, observe nature. This is exactly what I do every single time I'm thinking about a product. Every time I'm thinking about on the farm, I'm like, okay, calm down, take a deep breath, get into that space, get in that alpha state. And like, what are we seeing here? What is happening here? And when I did that with magnesium, I looked at the idea that in a perfect world, we would be getting most of our magnesium from our water supply. And the form of that magnesium is known as magnesium bicarbonate. And what blew me away is, as I started studying this form of magnesium, I learned that we have a bicarbonate buffering system in our body. And that blew me away. And that was something I didn't learn until like 3 or 4 years ago. So just like we have an immune system, we have this bicarbonate buffering system in our pancreas. And this very form of magnesium is what it wants. It wants this form known as magnesium bicarbonate. And we know that this form is so powerful in getting into the cell and helping us produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency of our cell. So we're all trying to take magnesium to get it into the cell, right? No matter what form we take. However, some of the forms, and some of them work really good, so especially the organic forms, they're just so damn expensive though. Like, it's like to the amount that you need to take when you're deficient and you need to take it every day, it kind of becomes cost prohibitive. The caveat though that I have with a lot of these organic forms of magnesium, because magnesium bicarbonate isn't an organic form, it's a salt. And I'm going to go into that. But the one thing I feel about organic magnesium, because I think that carbon-based magnesium supplements have more of a potential for absorption. At least that's what the research indicates. But what they failed to mention in all that research was that they were pulling that out of food. So what we have now is we have people that have seen the left brain science of it and said, okay, these organic forms of magnesium are the best. Excuse me here, let me get some water. These organic forms of magnesium are the best. They absorb the best. So then people go into the lab and they make them, right? And then they give you a pill form of that. But what happened there? We removed biology because we removed it from the food to synthesize it in the lab and then gave it back to our biology. And biology is the main thing that's always missing in these studies, as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's super left brain, right? So, which is super powerful too. I mean, the research is good. I don't want to shun it all. My point is even though the research is showing us that organic forms of magnesium are the best forms to get, that's because they were studied in food. So by eating food with magnesium in it, yeah, we're obviously going to get more absorption from that food. But in nature, in a perfect world, most of the magnesium we'd be getting wouldn't be even coming from our food. It'd be coming from that magnesium salt, and it was magnesium bicarbonate. And so there's a guy that found out about this through he was a rancher in Australia. I think his name was Russell Bennett. Don't quote me on that. But there's a guy, I know he's a guy from Australia. He had a spring on his property. He noticed the cows were living twice as long as any of their cows. He noticed that they were in this specific area, and he ended up testing the water, and the water was like extremely high in magnesium bicarbonate. And he just, again, he noticed all these different effects with these cows. Like, they lived longer, they were healthier, they were fatter, they tasted better. Like, he had a laundry list of things that he noticed. And so basically he actually started his own magnesium bicarbonate manufacturing center in Australia, where he was creating magnesium bicarbonate. Then he ends up missing and he died mysteriously. So, but what was happening is people were healing, like crazy stuff was happening, where people were drinking this form of magnesium and things were changing. And so when I was researching this, I was like, holy cow, like, this is amazing. But then I got into like, okay, how do I make this, you know, and how does this all work? And I found out that you can take magnesium hydroxide and you can carbonate it with carbon dioxide, and it'll turn into magnesium bicarbonate. And this is exactly what he was doing. He was getting magnesium hydroxide and infusing it with carbon dioxide and creating magnesium bicarbonate in a liquid form. And this would be, he was making like a super concentrated amount. And then he was just selling that as bottles. And he was selling like 32-ounce bottles for like $80.
Wow.
Which again puts us right back into that, wow, it's so expensive, so effective, but yet so expensive, right? But what I found out was that if you get a soda stream, right? Because they didn't have soda streams back then. We have soda streams now, right? I was like, that's CO2 right there, right? So sure enough, man, you take chilled water, you put it in a soda stream, chill it, pull it out, carbonate it. And if you add magnesium hydroxide to it, you can actually make your own super extremely potent magnesium bicarbonate.
Wow.
And for me, this is the most powerful form of magnesium that I've ever experienced. I mean, my whole family, when we started drinking and stuff, like my son would come up to me. He was like 8 at the time. He's like, Dad, my brain is like buzzing. He's like, I feel like, Dad, I feel it. You know, and I was like, oh, wow, great. You know, and then I also noticed too, when I would drink it, like I felt almost off. Like I was like, whoa, like I'm feeling this, like goosebumps. My whole nervous system just got lit up from this magnesium salt. And it was just such a game changer. I noticed like my sleep was better. No, my digestion was better. Because magnesium has a bowel tolerance, right? And what's cool about this form of magnesium is it's different than like sulfate, which will just run right through you. This form of magnesium you can actually hold, and you can actually raise your blood saturation levels of magnesium with magnesium bicarbonate super effectively. And what you can do to kind of do that is you figure out where your dose is that you start to have a loose bowel, and that's your dose. And maybe you do a little bit less than that, maybe an ounce less than that. But what happens is over time, you can have more, you can consume more, and you won't get that bowel tolerance. And this is contraindicative of how most bowel tolerances work, like vitamin C, which will build up in the body, and then you have to lay off of it for a few days to get back on it, or you'll have a bowel, if you have really good vitamin C. Ascorbic acid won't do that. That's not real vitamin C. It has to be like a whole food vitamin C that actually create the bowel tolerance. But again, if you do that with vitamin C, you have to lay off for a few days. With magnesium bicarbonate, you can actually start to increase your dose over time. And that is telling us that you're actually increasing your blood saturation level. And think about this idea of manifestation, magnetism, magnesium, the Earth's magnetic field. Our heart has a magnetic field. You're literally raising your charge. You're literally raising your potential for your heart to push out more electromagnetic energy, which ultimately can heal you and potentially heal other people. And to me, like that is just like fascinating. Like,
and guys, whenever he's saying that it can heal, he literally is saying heal. Even, you know, I know that we shy away sometimes from the word cancer, but when you look at cancer, the charge of cancer is very low. It's a very low charge. They did this with Dr. Vole way back in the day. And they've done that, and they've charged that and seen healthy cells are supposed to be at a certain millivolts. And whenever you start developing cancer, your millivolts decrease. So when he says it increases your charge, that's what he's talking about. And it is allowing your body to increase its charge so that it can increase the immune function, you know, insulin function, exocrine function, endocrine function, all of it, including fighting off stuff that is like disease related, cancer related, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it's pretty potent stuff.
It's crazy, right? I mean, we're mainly made out of water, and we have electricity. So we're more electrical than we are chemical. And that's something we have to really understand, you know, especially with all this crap, the Wi-Fi, the EMF, and we have to be protecting ourselves. Like, you know, Safe Sleep here. I've got, you know, Shungite here. I've got a Pryolite pad, which is pulsing out electromagnetic field. I've got an earthing pad here too that I'm actually standing on, right? So all this is like the earth has free electrons. So by being grounded and touching the earth, you're actually getting that charge as well. But this form of magnesium can actually help raise that internally in your blood.
Wow.
And yeah, it's so cool, right? So it's so cool. So
just carbonated water.
And magnesium hydroxide.
Magnesium hydroxide, wow.
Yeah, which is dirt cheap. Like, and the thing is there's a few companies that sell it. Like you can get like the Now Foods one. You can get a big bag for like nothing. But I found that those are like 97% magnesium hydroxide. And so I wanted something that was 99.9% USP grade, because that means it's, you know, pretty much 100% magnesium hydroxide. And I also noticed with the other stuff, you get like a fishy taste or a smell kind of with the other stuff. So to me, that was like the contaminants that 2% that wasn't magnesium hydroxide, which was like, what is it? And like, no one really knew. No one could tell you. They asked for a Skivay, you don't get it. So we opted for to bring on a magnesium hydroxide product, and we sell like a bag for $12, and it could last you up to like 4 to 6 months. Like, it's insane how cheap it is. You do have to make it though. That's the caveat. You do have to make it. But we're talking pennies. And there's even a few companies that make magnesium bicarbonate in a bottle, but it's highway robbery, man. They're selling them for like $60, $50, $80. And when you start taking this stuff, you're going to raise your blood saturation level. You have to drink more of it. So,
Yeah.
and so
But you
can.
Charles, so you wouldn't even have to get a carbonated device. You could just buy carbonated water, right?
Yeah. Now let's talk about that, because that is an important point. Another caveat, right? There's always these contextual caveats that happen. So if you can find reverse osmosis or distilled water that's been carbonated, that's what you want. The caveat with that though is it's in plastic, right? And if we want to talk about water and plastic and all that, it is what it is. But if you just want to try this out, you just want to snag up some magnesium hydroxide and you don't want to invest in a soda stream, do this anyways. But don't buy carbonated spring water. And here's why. Carbonated spring water has a high ppm, parts per million, or total dissolved solids, meaning it has stuff already in the water. In order to make a super potent magnesium bicarbonate, you don't want anything in the water. You want the water to be empty. So that's why I suggest you get like a reverse osmosis machine, or we have a distiller is what we use. And then you chill that water and carbonate it yourself. However, if you don't want to do that and you just want to get carbonated water, you want to look for water that's just like reverse osmosis or distilled and has been carbonated. And I believe Smart Water has one. It's hard to find. Like it's hard to find. It's not everywhere. I couldn't tell people where to get it. And I also just want to say, like, that's not the most optimal choice. Because you're still not going to be able to make as potent as what you can make at home with your own carbonation machine. And I can go into like where to get your own CO2 bottles and how to fill up your own CO2 bottles too, if you ever want to talk about that, because that's something else I ran into. Is like I bought a soda stream, then I'm buying these CO2 packs, and I'm all about keeping it so cheap and thrifty, right? So I actually bought a tank of CO2 tank, and I fill up my own cartridges.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because they sell them for like $40 and they last a long time. And even when you add the cost of the soda stream, and even if you didn't do what I did and you went to the store to exchange fresh ones and buy fresh ones, because that's how it worked. It's like an exchange system with the CO2 tanks. But then you got to go to the store and you got to do all that. I'm a homebody, so I'm like, go to the store. Even if you do that and you spend the money to do, the cost for you to make this is minuscule. It's pennies in comparison to any form of magnesium that you can purchase, let alone the best form of magnesium your body wants and desires, right? So,
wow. No,
that's... So yeah, if you're Richie, you can go buy the stuff already made. However, it won't be as potent as what you can make at home. If you want to try it out, just buy some carbonated water. Even if you can only get spring water that's carbonated, screw it. Just go with that to experience it. You'll still feel it. You'll still feel it. Like it won't be as perfect, and it won't be as potent, and you won't feel it as much. But you'll still notice it. And hey, there you go. That'll spark you to do it the super potent way, maybe, right?
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great that there's different steps and baby steps that people can get into. And again, I'm definitely gonna try all these when I get home. I mean, I'm definitely gonna get a carbonated one and try that out, because
I actually saw SodaStream at Ace Hardware the other day when I was buying the supplies.
They're everywhere nowadays. They're everywhere. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, when I was buying your supplies.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But it is super detailed to make. There's a lot of questions that pop up. But we actually have a YouTube video. I have a YouTube video on how to make the most potent magnesium bicarbonate. I have blogs about it. It's a huge FAQ. Like in our backend, the FAQ for Mag Bicarb is like almost like 8 pages, because it's like We get every type of question every which way. And the main thing I want people to know is like, you know, there's multiple ways to make it. You know, you're going to get different variances. It's never going to come out perfect. It's never going to come out the same every time. There's always like some stuff left at the bottom sometimes. There's always these questions that come up because people are just concerned because they want to make sure that they're making it the right way. And to be honest, there's no real right way to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is a very potent way to make it. And that's what I like to share with people, you know, is how to make it really powerful. Because then you're drinking less, you know.
Yeah.
So
awesome. And so how much do you drink a day?
so I've gotten up to about 8 to 12 ounces a day is kind of
What did you start with? What, 4?
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah, it made me go to the restroom pretty quick. Yeah, I hit that bowel tolerance, but I knew that I didn't need to go that far because the effects I got from just a few ounces was mind-boggling.
It's kind of crazy you say that because so my dad, with his mentor in nutrition, he introduced magnesium and he found stuff from Mexico at some point, and it came in these green packets, and he would take it and he would put it in some water and he would take it every day. And then obviously he would move them into the bathroom pretty much within 15 to 20 minutes after taking it. And, but his mentor was like, yeah, anybody after 40 should take this magnesium, you know.
Yeah.
And he was really big into that. And I think this magnesium bicarbonate concept is, I think, just the next level up on that. So, I mean, it sounds similar because he started at 4 ounces, and then it's cool that you can kind of measure, okay, when the stool is loose, then you kind of let it go an ounce, and then you'll build it up. And you know that as you're building up your tolerance, you're not building up your tolerance, you're increasing your voltage of your, which is
because you can hold it. You're able
which is really cool.
Yeah,
it's like a self-test.
Yeah, it's so and that's what brings a lot of the FAQs up though with it, right? Because people are like, oh, I drank a bunch and it didn't make me go to the restroom. I drank the whole bottle, and then like you end up kind of spending time with them, and they're like, oh wait, my CO2 tank wasn't filled or something. Right, it's like there's all these steps and variables, and that's why it's like just take it easy. You know what I mean? Like take it easy, like just play with it, have fun with it. Don't think that you gotta have it a specific way. You know what I mean? Because it's just
So let's do one more, and then we'll do a raffle, and then we'll open up to Q&A. And then how many are on your blog?
Like 4 or 5 more, but it's all good. I knew this was gonna happen, and I'm so glad it did. Because
Man, no, this is great. This is great. Well, I mean,
we can do a round 2. We can do a round 2.
Yes, I would. Yes, we would love that. But yeah, let's do one more. Let's do a raffle, and then
I'm looking at my list. I'm looking at my list right now, right? So I'm just like, which one do we want to do?
You want me to give you a minute? We'll do a raffle real quick while you look.
No, I mean how about I let you choose?
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Give me the list. What is it?
Okay. So borax. I was going to talk a little bit about borax, how you can use it in the garden, how you can use it. You can supplement with it, which I don't really do, but you can. And how you can use it in the washer, to wash stuff with. The other one is ferments for plants. So it's going to be more on the farming side of thing, like how to create your own nutrients for plants. It's super powerful, super easy to do. And I think most people should be doing that. I love talking about that. Same with microbial teas, how to make microbial teas for pennies. And I've got information all about that. And then the other one I have is like basalt cones, like electroculture, like how to make your own electroculture kind of stuff at home if people are into that. Tinctures in the full moon, like how to make your own potent tincture. And then the last one I had was ascorbic acid and chlorine, and ascorbic acid in water for chlorine reduction. That's mainly for summer though, when people are in the pools. So I'll throw them at you again. You want to talk about borax, ferments for plants, microbial teas, basalt for electroculture, tinctures. What do you think?
Let's do tinctures. We were floating between the teas and the tinctures.
Yeah. So the tinctures. So this is basically a super alchemical process, right? You're taking these leaves and you're soaking them in an alcohol or a glycerin, which you can use, which I don't suggest people use glycerin. I know a lot of people like they can't have alcohol, they go the glycerin route, but it doesn't really make it potent. I'm going to teach you guys how to make a super potent medicine. Because what's so cool about tinctures is people don't know this, is that you can take herbs that you've dried and say you want to consume those when you travel. Well, you can take 100 pounds of herbs, and you can concentrate all that medicine in that 100 pounds into like, 2-ounce bottle, right? Of concentrate. Like you could actually get it down to like a syrup and concentrate it to where like drops on your tongue is like lighting you up like a Christmas tree, right? So depending on what you want to do, the premise is this. You want to use an alcohol that's organic, that's high proof. A lot of people will say, oh, just use 60 proof, 70 proof, because if you use anything higher, it'll burn your tongue. Of course it will, but it also won't extract all the nutrients out of the herb. And in herbalism, what we use for what we're actually extracting is the word is known as the mark. The mark is the herbal term that's used when you're making a tincture for the substance that you're trying to pull nutrients out of. But here, the idea is like this. Like I got a jar here, so this will be easy. Let's say you take a jar, and people might ask, do I use fresh herbs? Fresh herbs would be better, right, than dried herbs? And I would say, no, they wouldn't. Dry herbs would be better because dry herbs have less water in them. And we don't want the water. We want the nutrients in the herbs. So we want to take dry herbs. And most companies, what they'll do is they'll put about this much. They'll do like a 1-to-6 ratio. So they'll have like a little bit of herb here, and then the rest will be alcohol. What I would suggest you do is not that. What I would suggest you do is go 1-to-1. So a 1-to-1 extraction ratio. So you'd pack this thing full of dry herbs all the way halfway. This 16-ounce jar, so you do 8 ounces of that. And it's dry, but it's a liquid weight measurement because it's in a glass jar. And then you pour alcohol on top of that. And I would opt for, an organic grain alcohol, or my favorite is grape spirits or sugarcane. And you can get like 190 proof. So like 190 proof is usually like Everclear, right? Like this is the most potent alcohol you can buy. But more companies are herbal companies have come out, companies that come out to support herbalists, and they have different products out now that have that super high alcohol proof that you can use. And what you do is you basically fill that up, you pour the water over it, you cap it, and you just kind of shake that up. And a little trick is that you start it on a new moon. So the alchemical trick, and we know that the moon affects the tides, it affects the water, it pulls water. So as the moon starts to wax, it waxes to full moon, right? Not wanes, it's waning when it's going down, right?
Yeah.
So as the moon's waxing into that full moon, it's slowly alchemically pulling more of those nutrients out of the herb or the mark. And so typically it's a 30-day or a moon cycle, which I don't necessarily know is 30 days. I think it's actually only like 28 days, right? Yeah. So for 28 days, you let that go. And a lot of people will say in between that going, you shake it up and all that stuff. Yeah, awesome. If you can remember to go and pull the jar out of a cabinet and shake it up, all the power to you. I typically am not the best at that. I kind of forget. I'm usually like a once a week, like, oh, there it is. I try to put it in a cabinet that I open regularly, like my spice jar, my spice cabinet. So I'm like, I just see it right there and I'm going to shake it up. But the idea is that using a 1-to-1 ratio, you're using 190 proof alcohol, and then you're using the moon to really help the extraction process. And if you want to go crazy with it, you could let it soak for a year, 6 months. You could really let it go through a couple moon cycles, and that'll get super potent. And that's what we actually do at Crucial for. I'm usually a 2 to 3 moon cycle extraction limit. That's like on the SOP. Like I don't want them pulling it unless it's been sitting for at least a satin. I'm from Texas. Unless it's been sitting for more than like 2 or 3 months. And then what you do when you're done with that is you pour the alcohol out, you strain it out. A lot of people like to use cheesecloth. I don't like to use cheesecloth. I like to just use like a stainless steel strainer and pour that out and get that alcohol. You can use any herbs that you want. You pour that alcohol out, and then you're left with all that herb. So what you want to do next is you want to take that herb and you want to put that in a crock pot. And you want to pour water over it, and you want to let that simmer, because you cannot take that alcohol straight. It's 190 proof. It will burn your mouth like the dickens. You will not be happy with me. You'll be like, dude, this ass made me drink this. This is so gross. It burned my mouth. Oh my gosh. But what you want to do is you want to dilute it. And you want to, and most herbalists, most companies just dilute it with water. But I'm going to teach you guys a trick. Create a dual extract. Because when you're extracting herbs with alcohol, you're pulling out the fat soluble nutrients. You're not touching the water soluble nutrients. But when you take that mark and you put it in, say, a crock pot and you let that kind of simmer for a few days, now you're extracting all the water soluble nutrients. Now you're going to dilute that with the tea that you just made. Dilute the alcohol with the tea, add a little bit of honey to it that you like. And now you've got a dual extracted tincture. It's got water soluble and alcohol soluble compounds in it. It's super concentrated. And you've got it to where, you know, it won't burn you. It's got a little bit, you add a little bit of honey. I love adding a little bit of honey to it, kind of sweeten it up a little bit. And man, yeah, in 2 ounces, you literally could have hundreds of dollars worth of like herbal, you know, people buy herb extracts, right? And capsules and stuff like that. Like this is the way to go. And you can travel with this. Like it's TSA friendly. It's under 2 ounces, right? And if you get super zarny and weird, you can get Myron glass little tincture bottles, which reflect all light. And so if it's running through the x-ray machine or whatever, it completely blocks all that garbage out when you're traveling. Because I think tinctures have a very powerful place when we travel, when we're on the go.
What's your biggest herb tincture go-to?
Mushrooms, man. Chaga mushroom. Yeah.
What does that do for you?
For me, nervous system. Like I just feel completely relaxed. But we know chaga is one of the #1 things for our immune system. You know, I mean, chaga tea I really love in the winter. I like just having a tea. But a dual extracted tincture. I had a few guys, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had a girl who had another cancer that, you know, C word, whatever that was happening with her. And they swore by that chaga. They were doing lots of things, sauna, ozone, detoxing, you know, the zeolites, the clay, the rebounder, but chaga was always in the mix. Chaga and agarikon, those 2 mushrooms right there. Turkey tail is another one, especially for breast cancer. You know, Paul Stamets is big on turkey tail, and his mom, that was her story that he speaks about with turkey tail. But again, you could add turkey tail to that mix. You don't have to just use chaga. You could use a mix of mushrooms, which I would actually highly suggest. But I would say mushrooms would be like, if you're going to make some tinctures and you want to get started, man, so powerful. Because mushrooms, unlike herbs, they don't degrade as quick. You know, like a really cool one is like passion flower tincture, especially at night, help you relax, help you go to sleep. But it's really hard to find like really good passion flower. You know, at least where I'm at. You know, if you can grow it and, you know, all the power to you, like do that. But for me, it's the mushies. The mushrooms.
Wow. Okay.
Cool.
Very cool. Wow. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And obviously, you know, he went over the broad strokes of it, but the details, he wrote out all the details on the blog that we're going to share with all you guys. You know, I don't, Charles, if you want to, if the blog is already published, you can put it in the chat if you want.
Yeah, we were actually editing some stuff. I found some errors in it and I was like, wait, this isn't ready yet. So I'm looking at my Slack right now to communicate with my editor to see where it's at, but it'll be live by tomorrow.
Awesome.
If that's okay with you guys, like I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then what about, you want to put in your YouTube channel?
Yeah, we can do all that jazz as well, because I'm going to do a YouTube video about them as well, just to kind of link on it, and then there'll obviously be that blog link there for the actual written breakdown, so that there's actually a guide there for people to make it. And the blog will also have links to videos for like the mag bicarb, because like I can write that down, but you really need to see a video on how to make that one. Like you really gotta, there's a few nuances there. So I have a video for that. So in that blog, it'll link you to a video. So you have both. You have written and visual, audio, have it all.
Sweet. So. Okay. Awesome. And then, all right, then let's, I'm going to do the wheel. Wheel of names. Let's see. I got to get the list of everyone here. So today we are going to raffle off 4. We're going to raffle off 2 of the salts. And we're going to actually raffle off, let me just share. Actually, your mag bicarbon.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
So you're the magnesium hydroxide that you guys would need to make this. And we're going to action off 2 of those and 2 of the salts.
Cool.
And so We just need to make sure we get everyone's name.
So this is gonna take us a minute because we gotta type everybody in.
But let's see. Let's see. Let's check. I think that's it.
Nice.
Sweet. Okay. So we got this wonderful wheel, and obviously if we know you, we'll use the email that we have for you on file, and then if not, we might just ask for an email just in cases, so that we can get you, you know, make sure that we have your shipping address and all that. So we'll just order it on Charles's website. I put it in the chat. It's Crucial 4. And again, it's going to be 2 of the magnesiums, and then 2 of the M salts. And I think we're going to do the 6 ounce on the magnesium. So you guys will have, I mean, that should last you a good while. And you'll be able to get some good use out of that. So
Yeah, and on the 6 ounce, if you got a family of 4, it's usually around 6 months.
wow.
You know, maybe 4
Awesome.
months. It just, you know, it kind of depends, but that's typically what we see.
Sweet. Okay.
Cool.
So we'll do the mag first. Pam. All right. Pam, I don't think we actually have your information. If you don't mind, you can either put in the chat, or if you want to actually just email us at info@drmeandyou, and I'll put that in the chat. info@drmeandyou. So that's our email. So just Pam, if you don't mind, just, you know, shoot us an email so that we can get your name and your shipping address, and then we will put in the order for you and ship that out to you. You know,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic. I was hoping for the mag. That's great.
Great.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
All
So that's
right.
awesome. And then we're gonna go another magnesium. So let's try that.
And whoever gets these, if you guys have any questions at all, just feel free to reach out to our staff. And they're very well trained on breaking it all down for you.
Ew. Barbara. All right. I will get with you, Barbara. All right. And now the M salts. Let's see. Adam Eaton. All right, Adam. I think we were talking about you earlier, Adam. We were talking about that Charles does a teaspoon first thing in the morning, and it also helps with, you know, just energizing the body and pre-workout.
For the salt, actually, the
for the-
thing
for
that
the-
you just won.
for literally the salt that you just got. So that's great. All right, and then one more. There you go, Tamar. All right,
Nice.
awesome.
Congrats, everybody.
Yeah, sweet. All right, so then let's go into Q&A. So I'm gonna go back up and go to the first thing. Let's see. What about Celtic? We talked about Icelandic. We talked about. Is there a simple test for rancid, like being able to test rancid fat oil? Like, do you have any kind of like test to test that, or do you just have like a blanket?
Or do you just smell it?
I mean, you can, but most of those are so loaded with fragrances that you'd never be able to really tell, you know? The idea is just like, what kind of oil is it? If it's a polyunsaturated fat, then we know that's not a stable fat, no matter how you look at it, right? I know there's a few companies that, you know, put it in Myron glass as well, but then it's like, how was it extracted? How was it pressed? Was there heat involved? Like, there's just all these things you need to know. And for me, I'd rather just opt out of like all of that stress of like needing to know and just go with something that's stable.
Yeah.
That you don't have to worry about, you know. It's kind of like it's not. It's just kind of like the olive oil, right? There's not enough olive oil in the world. There's not enough olive trees in the world to produce all of the olive oil that's on the market.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's cut.
No, that's so really it's about the polyunsaturated fat.
Yeah, man, I just stay away from it, man. I try to stay away from it as much as possible. I mean, if we go out to eat, like I don't even say any names. There's some really nice steakhouses that your pop and I have eaten at many times, and like they use canola oil and they use grass-fed beef. You know, what restaurant doesn't use, you know, transmission fluid, or that's what I call it, but it's canola. Rapeseed oil. Now they call it rapeseed so to confuse people, but it's the same thing because canola comes from the rape plant. You know, but yeah, man, it's a tough one. We're inundated with these oils. So they're getting in our body. And the last thing I want to do is put it on my skin, you know, because I am going to go out to eat every now and then. I know I'm going to probably get a little bit of that. I mean, my kids, it's so tough too. Like they find snacks, I turn it over. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. Dude, like you suck. We hate taking you to the store. And I'm like, go take your mom. You know? I'm not. I just know too much, you know, and so.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't actually have a test, you know, and I would imagine if there was one, you would need that raw oil to test it, which is, you know, I don't know, companies or people would be willing to go to that length of measurement, right, to figure that out. So.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing about cooking with those kinds of seed oils versus cooking with something like ghee or butter or tallow or things like that is, imagine when you're cooking an egg on a pan, if that pan has any metals in it and you're using a seed oil, you're actually, because of the way that the water works and the way that it repels things, you're actually going to be getting your, say an egg, if you're cooking an egg, the egg is going to be a lot closer to those metals and actually pulling more of those metals up into the food than if you were to use a true saturated fat like a tallow or a butter or a ghee, which is going to create more of a barrier between the base of the pan and the egg that you're cooking. So you're still cooking that egg properly without actually pulling any potential metals up into that food.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that you brought to my mind's eye to add to what you just said was that when we put this stuff on our skin, or if we're consuming it, our internal temp is high. It's like 98 degrees, right? So we are like, it can cook from within. So even if it's pure and it was all done right, what happens when it enters this tropical vessel?
Yeah.
Those rancid. So.
All right. And then I'm sure, but and this might all already be in your blog. But you mentioned half coconut oil, half tallow, and then how much resin do you use within that concept?
So it's going to depend. I'd start with at least a quarter cup of resin, but you might want to increase it if you want more smell, you know. And there's other things you can do to infuse scents inside this. Like you could take roses, like actual roses, and you can, like calendula flowers. You could take flowers and actually infuse this inside here in there as well if you want more of a feminine kind of smell. But I would definitely stay away from like the essential oil of rose or the, you know, or anything like that's been distilled, an essential oil that's been distilled. I would stay away from that. But if you want to infuse actual herb in it, rosemary, you just want to use that raw material.
And if you're someone who's concerned about Wi-Fi and 5G and radiation and things like that, I would suggest starting with pine resin, because pine is a really good anti-radiation ingredient. They actually did studies after Chernobyl where they used pine to help detox those individuals from the radiation poisoning.
Wow. I knew they used zeolites. I didn't know they used pine. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. This Russian guy we connected with, he made a product called
Folium PX.
Folium PX, and that was one of his two products. I mean, one of the two ingredients in the product. One of them was pine.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty cool. All right. So let's see. What does it do for wrinkles because of loss of collagen? The
Tallow and
the tallow coconut.
resin.
Yeah.
You know, most of the stuff that's going to help with collagen production is going to be what you eat. You know, I know that there's products out there like vitamin C and things that you put inside these oils to put on your skin to help with collagen production. But I think there's more, our attention should be more so focused on like, what can we eat to help with collagen production, you know? And I think of things that are like anti-glycation. So things like blue butterfly flower. This is an herb that has anti-glycation properties. It really helps negate the effects of sugar, which can actually cause wrinkles. Like a high sugar diet, it really pushes the wrinkle game on people pretty heavy, just that oxidative process that happens. But
and you have a blue butterfly powder that you sell, right?
Yeah, and it's named after, the scientific name is named after the woman's reproductive part, because it obviously looks like it, but it also helps that area too, like blood flow, anti-glycation, and it's also a neurotropic, so it helps localize acetylcholine in the hippocampus. So if you're trying to remember something, recall something, it's a really cool product. But you know, collagen is good too. A lot of people just don't eat like. This is one thing I love about my wife. Like when I met my wife, we were eating chicken, and you know, like I'm used to a typical girl, like eat a little bit of the bone, and then like there's all this cartilage, there's all this like tendon that we don't eat as Americans. Now my wife, and she gets in there, and I'm just like, she got this beautiful jaw. She got a very wide jaw. She has all the room in her mouth for her teeth, you know, so making sure you're eating like this, right? Like eating that rich tendon and collagen on its bones, but also like bone broth. Like that's going to be the number one thing to help with wrinkles. The other thing though is stress, man. Like stress can cause glycation like crazy.
Yeah.
Will this cream directly help with wrinkles? I don't know. I would say a colostrum face mask would be a direction I would go if I was really looking to apply something to my skin for wrinkles, because that has growth factors inside of it. It's got epithelial growth factors, which are like growth factors for your skin. And if you've ever done like a magnesium colostrum mask, man, when you get done, it's like Botox, like the whole face kind of like just goes back. And that's really cool. That's a really cool way to, if you're looking for something to apply to the skin, like maybe you're trying to like pinpoint an area. Like I go like this because I got crow's feet. I'm almost 40, bro. So it's like I'm right there. I'm like, what can I put here? Colostrum face. No. But the key thing with the skin is keeping it moisturized. It's when it's not moisturized that the problems occur.
Yeah.
So that's the key, is keeping it moisturized. And that's why I like the tallow and the coconut oil, because it like sits. The coconut oil not so much, but the tallow comes in and bam.
Yeah.
It really helps it stick.
And so the next question is actually, so could they make a lot and then store it? Does it store easy, or?
I think that was talking about the mag.
Oh, do you think it was the magnesium?
Yeah, because that was around the time that was posed.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was the magnesium. It was a question that says, can you make lots and store it? So I guess maybe can you do the magnesium bicarbonate? Can you make lots of that and store that?
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you're storing it, you're keeping it in the fridge, it's sealed up. But most people won't have enough to store for a very long period of time unless you got like 20 soda streams or 30 sodas. I mean, you know what I mean? So
Okay.
You have to get the soda streams and stuff like that, you know. I mean, I've seen people make it in glass mason jars as well. Like they'll make it in the soda stream, they'll pour the carbonated water in a mason jar, then they'll add the magnesium bicarbonate, and they'll shake that up, seal that up. You could do that. But in my experience, you know, you're gonna blast through it quicker than you can actually store it. But I do like to make enough for like the week. That is nice. But it's like usually like 2 or 3 bottles. Liters is kind of what I go through. Kind of like Sunday food prep. My Sunday mag prep.
Yeah. And then you mentioned not doing olives. So then olive oils, what about your thoughts on avocado oils?
Well, it's not that I wouldn't eat these oils, but there's an interesting thing about avocado oil. But for olive oil, again, we just have to realize there's not enough olive trees in the world to produce the amount of olive oil that exists.
Yeah.
So not that I don't eat olive oil, I get the Texas olive oil because I know them. They're here,
Okay.
Texas. I know they're not cutting it with stuff. It's not certified organic and whatever. But the reason why I do that is because you want olive oil fresh. When I spoke to people in Italy and France, it's like we want our oil fresh. When it's pressed, we want it. So it's like getting all this stuff from Spain or Europe and whatnot. And to also another note is we ozonate olive oil, and you have to get really good olive oil to actually ozonate it, or it won't change its viscosity. So I just letting you know, I've ran into like batches of oil that we could not turn into olive oil, like ozonated olive oil, because it was cut. And it might have been cut with like maybe 5% or something. Super expensive, organic, extra virgin, but still cut with something. It's just like you just don't know. So I'm not against olive oil. It's just like it's like kind of the same thing with the skin, oil. It's like it's a bitch. So excuse my language. Golly, and then avocado oil, the caveat there is the peroxidation point. So everyone's like, oh, use avocado oil, it's got monounsaturated fat inside of it, not saturated fat. Its heat point is higher, it's like 400 degrees, but its peroxidation point is not. So it actually does go rancid from my research. So I typically don't cook with avocado oil at all.
Got it.
Yeah, just go old school. Do what our grandparents did, man. Tallow, coconut oil, butter, ghee. Oh,
Yeah, we do a lot of ghee.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like it's where it's at. Tried and true.
Let's see. When you ozonate, what do you expect it to look like if it is not cut?
It completely changes into like a white cream, like almost like a Vaseline jelly consistency.
Cool.
And when you refrigerate that, it's rock solid, like a brick. Like you have to almost let it sit out for a little bit to apply it to your skin.
Very cool. All right, people, that was all the questions. But if you have any more, Charles is ready.
It's all good, man. I'm just honored to be here with you guys. I appreciate the time and effort. Thank you guys as well. God bless.
Yeah.
God bless.
My gosh, this was great. And we're going to try a lot of this stuff. We're definitely going to go through the blog, and I'm going to make it follow the moon cycle and go and try that out. I've been meaning to do a rosemary, because that's so good for pain.
And we grew it in our backyard.
So I was thinking about doing, rosemary and alcohol and having that sit and try.
Yeah, rosemary's a great one to do that with, man, for memory. And you can put that in your hair too. If you put a little like coconut oil with that and that tincture, that's phenomenal for the hair follicle. That and castor oil, which I got to be careful with castor oil, but that's a powerful for the hair follicle.
Let's see. So the solid olive oil lasts longer?
No, it's a completely different product when you ozonate it. So, it's more for like a first aid after you've ozonated it. You're going to use that on psoriasis, ringworm, if you've got any type of like cut or abrasion, any type of pimple, wart. I've had skin tags come off, warts come off my hand just applying it. You have to be consistent. It takes almost a year, and you have to be consistent and apply it, but it will break down all that stuff. You can put it in capsules and take it. That's another powerful way to do it, but it's not something you'd want to cook with after that. You've completely changed the molecular structure of the oil when you ozonate it. You create ozonides. They're long chain ozone molecules that are all bound together, and it completely changes the viscosity of the oil. It's a completely new product. And Nikola Tesla was the one who really was the prominent one who invented ozonated olive oil. He was one of the guys that was pushing ozonated olive oil. And so there's a patent on how he made it. And when I was learning about our ozone machines and like what to get and what to use to build them out, I just ran into that article and a little bit of research on that. It's really cool. It's really cool.
That's really cool.
What do you use your ozone machine for?
What do I use it for?
Yeah.
I do rectal ozone insufflation. That's my game.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's 99.5 as effective as auto hemotherapy, where you put the needle in your arm, you pull your blood out, you ozonate it, and you put it back in. That takes an hour, costs $300. You're poking yourself with a needle. I can do rectal insufflation in under a minute, and it costs me pennies to do it at home. Because one thing we have to realize with ozone is like one dose of ozone will make you feel better, light you up, feel good. But if you have systemic infection, or if you're trying to raise what's called your oxygen variance, which is your utilization of oxygen, the only way that you can do that is like low and slow. Like you have to be consistent, you have to be low, and you have to, in low dose, slowly, consistently. But yeah, I've helped a lot of people with systemic infections, the C word again, Lyme's, STDs, like all types of stuff. Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, ozone's incredible, man. And I mean, even the FDA accepts ozone.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the essential oil question, I saw it pop up. Yeah, aromatherapy. But for me, I take those resins and I put them on charcoal. I'm old school. I'm like the mystic, right? I want the frankincense and myrrh, you know? Like I want that style. So I like getting charcoal briquettes that aren't sulfur. They don't have sulfur in them. These are the coconut ones. And then I put my resins on there. My wife likes oils here and there. I got a buddy. He's like, I make this oil for you, bro. And I'm like, I love you. I'm not putting that on my skin, man. Like, but if I was going to use essential oils, it'd be more of aromatherapy. Would be how I would use it. Yeah, I definitely think there's a good
And
application.
then someone asked, what about a do-it-yourself for a body wash?
I have to think about that one, man. I have to think about that one. I mean, I like to use, what do we use now? We've got like goat soap bars and stuff like that we use occasionally. I usually don't put soap all over my skin. I just hit the areas that need to get hit, the pits and the privates. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I work on a farm, I get dirty, right? So I have to have some soap. But I try not to lather up too much. I do like Dr. Bronner's on occasion. I know that that's got some seed oil in it, but it suds up. And I actually use that same process for the farm to make a wetting agent. I made my own soap. And I'm actually going to drop a video on that here pretty soon, like how to make your own soap. Because you can also use it as a wetting agent for your farm to help, like, say you got some bugs right on your farm, you want something to like stick to the bugs, you make your own Castile soap, sodium hydroxide, lye, water, and you can use coconut oil. The book I got was like, use canola oil. I'm like, this dude's done wrong. So I do coconut oil instead. Just kind of pricey, but I don't know. I feel like I'm worth it. You know, only got one body, man. Only got one body. So
Yeah, that's great.
Have you ever used soap nuts? That's kind of a
yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen them in the washing for like detergent for like clothes.
We started using for our clothes. I was using baking soda before, and then I switched to the soap nuts, and man, those things last forever.
Yeah, throw borax. That was my other one I was going to mention, but borax with that combo is super powerful.
Okay.
But, yeah, boron. Yeah, boron in the borax, man. It's a powerful.
Okay. So you use that with the, you've used that with the soap nuts?
I add borax to whatever I'm using. But yeah, I've used soap nuts in the past. Yeah, and I like to use like magnesium prills. But if you've got a water softener, man, that does a lot for your washing machine.
Yeah, we do.
We do. We're not on that hookup. We have it on the shower.
We have hard water. Yeah.
Yeah, so do I, man. So I had to get a softener, and I just exchange it with salt. You know, so it turns into, and it's an exchange system. So,
how much borax do you use?
Ah, man, it'd probably be like just like a half cup or a quarter cup in a load of laundry. Nothing crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Because when you buy it, like they have the recommendations on the back, you know. So I pretty much just use what it says. I could probably use a little less. You know, but it's one of those remedies like having vinegar in the house, right? Like everyone needs vinegar to clean with, you know.
Yeah.
I could keep going on about these remedies, but yeah, I'm getting hungry.
That's fair.
No, it's fair. Anyone else have any other questions?
Does Crucial Forest sell the ozonated olive oil for skin care?
Yes, ma'am, we do. when
Thank
we're in
you.
stock. You're welcome.
Yeah, I would imagine most of the things you sell is because you've gotten into it and dabbled with it and then tried it
Of
out. and
course.
then-
Yeah, like I said, I designed my product line for me and my family. I didn't design it for other people.
Yeah.
That might be narcissistic or whatever, but at the end of the day, like we're do things completely different than most companies. Like, you know what I mean? Like I gotta help myself first and help my family and my community first, and then share that with other people. Just like what you guys said. There's not anything you guys talk about that you don't experiment on, and you guys are doctors, and it just goes to show that like all of us in this holistic field, like we all are guinea pigs.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no school that's really teaching us this stuff, really, you know.
No,
So-
a lot of the, like you said, go old school. A lot of that old school stuff is being lost.
Yeah.
Man, my grandma, man, she drops dropping knowledge. She's turning 98 Saturday.
Wow.
Happy birthday,
Yeah.
Grandma.
I know. I'm excited. It's gonna be a
Are
good
you gonna
one.
make a remedy book for her on all the stuff that she's,
What are you talking about? Where do you think I got all these remedies? I got them
It's the remedy book.
That's so good. Okay, so when you first initiated Crucial 4 idea, it really came out of like your garage of like you saying, hey, I'm making all this stuff for my family. Why not do a store?
For myself, yeah. It started for myself, right? Because I went down like that whole vegan, cleaned out my diet, was raw vegan for a while, then brought animal foods back in and stuff like that. So as I started really getting into the herbs and stuff and breakfast, you know, which, you know, that was the first product, but it came in like 12, 13 different bags. So I really got big into cacao and using cacao as a medicine, as a potentiator, as a vasodilator to drive in like ashwagandha and mucuna for the adrenal hypothalamus axis, and like, you know, really gotten involved in just like nutrient density. Like that was kind of the name of the game. I wanted to make sure I looked at it as like an insurance policy. Like I can make this shake loaded with so much crap inside of it, you know, but I don't have to worry about taking like synthetic vitamins and minerals. I don't care how it tastes, you know.
Yeah.
Let's go. You know, so yeah, man. And it just lit me up. Like when I drank that, I remember drinking really good ceremonial cacao with like mucuna purines and ashwagandha, like just that combo. Like, wow. You
And
know,
then you've also done some travel where you gotten inspired by things, right?
yeah, of course, you know, especially like going to Ecuador and it's just experiencing like these shamans and how they work with these herbs. And because in South America, they don't write things down. You have to go down there to study. It kind of sucks. But the Vedics, I could read stuff and I could conceptualize it and I could order things and I could talk to mentors. You know, the Vedic system is so ancient and old and that it's very written down. And then Taoism is the same, mentors in Taoism that taught me, which is really the premise to what you were talking about in the beginning, observation, the Tao, you know, just observe. So those are like the three systems that I studied the most.
That's good.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm sure you guys are too. I know you guys know all this stuff.
Yeah, but you know, it's always fun to hear again. And right, because this is the last thought that were you a pharmacist?
No, I went to school for biochemistry.
Biochemistry.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my mom got breast cancer, and I was in that raw vegan stage, and then I just like committed to like really wanting to be close to her and like seeing what the potential of the foods can do in combination with, you know, meditation and spirit, and you know, she's very religious, so that was a very powerful angle for her, and I think that's the ultimate angle for all of us. We're spiritual beings in a physical body. We're not physical beings in a spiritual body. So even though I like supplements, I don't like herbs, meditation and prayer oversees all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. So
Good.
You told me that he was a pharmacist. I thought that somebody had told me that you were a pharmacist at one point.
no, you know, I went to school for biochem, and then I really got big into like I was thinking about going to school for being a botanist, you know, so I took some classes in that. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, I felt a call to start Crucial 4, you know,
Yeah.
like to really get that word out and that message out. So
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, I appreciate
Thank you
it.
so
I
much,
appreciate all this, and everyone will be obviously when he gets the blog edited, we'll send that out to everyone and send out the YouTubes and get all that information out to you guys, because obviously there was 3 or 4 other things that we didn't get to, and This is wonderful, Charles. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. God bless. Y'all have a great rest of your night.
All
Have a good
right. Have a
one.
great dinner.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.